Hello, everybody. Welcome and congratulations to everyone who finished the Start Strong Challenge. My name is Catherine. I'm with the AutoCrit editing team, and joining me today is Becca. Becca is a multi-best-selling author and here who's been part of the challenge. Becca helped kick us off, and we also had a guest judge help as well, narrowing down your submissions. There were so many interesting stories submitted for the challenge, and today we're going to reveal the finalists. There are 6 total finalists, and we are going to let you vote live for your favorite as the winner. We are not choosing the winner for you, thank gosh, because it would be really hard to do. So good luck. Becca, you have anything you want to say to warm us up before we go into the different stories and talk a little bit about what we went through with the challenge?
No, I was just really impressed with the level of whimsy that we saw. People used the prompts in really creative ways. And I'm really excited to share our finalists with everyone and kind of kick it off that way. Like, what a great opportunity for us to celebrate the creativity of fellow writers. Like, this is awesome. I love seeing what your brains come up with. So yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Yes, we are very, very excited. There were 6 finalists. Again, we will read all 6 off, and it's going to be very interesting to see what you guys think. If you have friends that love little flash fiction stories, grab them, because you do not have to be a participant in the challenge to vote. So even if you didn't submit, even if you're tuning in for the first time, support some fellow writers in their writing journeys by voting today for your favorite. We're going to get to that in a little bit. So just as a refresher for what the Start Strong Challenge was, we did a 100% free challenge, and the challenge was to write 1,000 words and have it be one complete story with a clear beginning, middle, and an end. That story had to be themed around whimsy, and there were a few requirements for content. And Becca, I'm going to just go ahead and let you know, you got your wish. There's a little horror whimsy in some of these today too. So we got a large variety represented in our finalists. We have genres from across the board. We got literary fiction represented, horror represented, fantasy represented, a couple other things also represented. In order to qualify for the finalist round, you had to have your story take place inside an abandoned laundromat. There had to be a physical pinwheel present, and you had to have the word waltz, waltzed, or waltzing in your story somewhere, referring to people actually dancing, or critters or things of some kind actually doing the dance waltz. We then had 2 twists, and we know this was made a little challenging, but you guys were super creative with how you came up with your responses to these twists. You guys will see that in a second in the finalists. The first was the abandoned laundromat had to be a gateway to something else. It did not necessarily have to be a magical portal to another world or anything, but it did have to be a gateway to something. And your story, when you ran it through the showing versus telling report in AutoCrit, which we unlocked and gave everybody access to for free during the challenge, had to be within 25% of your story's genre average. So if your story's genre is fantasy and it would normally have 19, that means you have to have somewhere within about 4 sentences below or over that amount to qualify. So we know showing versus telling can be super hard to get down, and we are super proud of you all for giving this your best effort. We actually are going to be giving away some great prizes today to the people who submitted and made it into the finalists. And I'm going to go ahead and let you know, every single finalist on the call is getting feedback from our judging team. And Becca, you want to say the other thing they get?
We wanted you to make sure that you can keep your story going. So we wanted to give you free access to the Story Sculptor course that is coming up in March, right, Catherine? Yes.
Yeah.
So you will have a free course and you'll get that individualized feedback if you are a finalist. So we are just super proud of the work that you've done.
Yeah. So every person who is represented today has already won something. The finalists, though, the actual winner chosen by you guys is going to get a big prize. And we're going to talk a little bit about that after we vote. So let's get started here. And these are all anonymous. If you are present and would like to let people know that's my story, you can definitely do so. But we don't want to out you if you're not quite ready to be showing yourself to the world. So we're not going to be putting the names on these. We also want the blind voting to be objective. So if you do see your story, please wait to shout out that it's your story until after the vote. And then we'll be like, finalists, announce that you're here, and we'll celebrate with you if you want to. Let me go ahead and make the screen larger, and we are going to start reading these off for you guys. You may want to make a note of titles of the pieces you like, because we're going to throw a survey up for you to cast your vote for, and that survey is going to have the story title. Okay, so here we go. Hopefully everybody can see the screen okay. I am going to make it bigger though. And do I need to zoom in, Becca? Can you see it okay?
I can see it okay, and I've got my massive bifocals on, but we might want to make it just slightly bigger just in case.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're going to make it, just don't want it to be blurry. So if this is blurry, you guys, please let us know. Okay, here we go. A mismatched love. It was a time of unbalance and turmoil on a small blue planet orbiting an insignificant star in a far corner of the galaxy. It was not the kind of place that one expected to be the center of a universal battle between the forces of good, the bad, and the undecided. But, dear reader, we wouldn't have a story if it was not such a place. Buck Wild was cranky. Sitting in the spiderweb and dust-filled abandoned laundromat made his nose itch and his sciatica ache. But he promised the lovely Daisy, who owned the diner across the street and served the best lemon meringue pie this side of the Chattahoochee, he would look for the scoundrels she swore were using the old washateria as their late-night hangout. I just know they're having one of those raids in there, she drawled, and probably smoking marijuana, she added in a conspiratorial, I can speak, you guys, whisper. And so it was that through the machinations of a beautiful redhead and the unalterable march of universal events he would never know, he found himself crouched in a dark corner wondering what he was missing on that night's episode of The Curse of Oak Island. He was about to pour another cup of coffee from his thermos when he heard a loud metallic pop. Lowering his cup and thermos to the floor, he held his breath and waited. Cosmo Argyle backed out of the fourth dryer from the left, bottom row, and stretched his wiry limbs to an impossible length. He was unsettled. The coast is clear, he called into the rusty dryer drum, as they say on this planet anyway. One spindly hand, then another, grasped the edge of the same dryer, and Sling Kashmir, second in command of the intergalactic abandoned laundromat inspection force, propelled herself into the dusty space with an enthusiastic flip. This is definitely not the coast, she said, brushing dryer lint from her uniform. Determine if the other portals are still functional, Cosmo directed. I'll check the perimeter. Sling produced a child's pinwheel toy and held it up to each dryer, quietly speaking into her wrist receiver. Buck was fascinated as the whirligig spun in front of some dryers and was still in the face of others. Cosmo crossed the floor in 2 strides and half-heartedly pushed a button on the vending machine. Could this be the place, after all this time? A startled mouse skittered from underneath and ran headlong into Buck's thermos, which hit the floor with a clunk and a glug and whispered curse from its owner. Sling and Cosmo spun and peered into Buck's corner. Before any of them could speak, a thundering noise echoed through the laundromat, and the entire bank of dryers began to shake violently. Sling's pinwheel spun furiously and emitted a shower of blue sparks which hung in the air with a disco-like pulsing glow. One by one, the dryer doors burst open, and out of each shot streams of beings, jubilant and dancing under the blue sparkling lights. Sling and Cosmo backed into Buck's corner, momentarily dazzled by the display of chaotic glee and cacophony of chattering and laughing voices. Sling regained her wits first. "You are all under arrest," she shouted. The beings, now engaged in a seemingly choreographed dance, ignored her. Did you not hear what I said? Sling sprang forward, menacingly gesturing with her pinwheel. The beings continued waltzing through midair, improbably gyrating in 3/4 time. What in the actual sweet hell is happening here? Buck was as confused as he was fascinated. The universe, and your world in particular, is in a state of unbalance, Cosmo explained. Wars, famine, suffering are said to be caused by this imbalance. Our agency's mission is to restore the balance by enforcing the bonding of matched pairs. When the bonds are broken and the pairs unmatched, the universe tilts towards oblivion. Those are socks, Buck said slowly, as he realized what the beings were. You're telling me all of the problems in our world and all worlds are caused by mismatched socks? Yes, that is what some still believe, Cosmo replied. These socks are renegades, slipping through portals between abandoned laundromats to live what they call a free life. Sling shuddered as the socks began to slow their dance and gather around the trio. The pair must match, the match must balance, the balance must remain, Sling chanted. People lose socks every day. You get another pair and move on with your life, or just wear mismatched. Buck slowly lifted his pant legs, revealing he was wearing 2 different socks. Blasphemy! Sling screeched as the socks gasped and whispered excitedly. Just when he thought things couldn't get any weirder, the old industrial washer began to hum and gently glow with an ethereal, otherworldly light. A white figure rose from the decaying drum. There was a moment of silence before the socks rushed forward, genuflecting and greeting the figure with cries of "Javan!" and "He is here!" I'm very happy to see you, children, the white being stated, and also to see you, friend, nodding towards Cosmo. Buck was stunned to realize the white figure talking to them was a giant, sentient knee sock. Javan Kenisak, Cosmo took a step forward. I've been looking for you for a long time, and now I have found you, Javan stated serenely. Cosmo knew Sling expected him to arrest Javan in the socks, but he had been preparing to take another path. I stand with the free socks, Cosmo exclaimed. All socks can match or not match and be free to love whom they choose. I am for freedom. The socks cheered as Javan bowed to Cosmo. And, dear readers, thanks to one courageous individual, all beings on that small blue planet orbiting an insignificant star in a distant corner of the galaxy were free to dance with whomever they chose to love. Yay!
Oh, delightfully whimsy.
Oh, love the feedback here. It's very funny, very clever. There says. Oh, awesome. Well done. Well done. Becca, I'm going to pull up story number 2 here for you.
Let me drink some water and make sure I'm ready for this because we have so many amazing words to read to you in all of these stories.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And here is Frostquake.
Okie dokie. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So Frostquake. Joe swiped his sleeve across the filthy glass door, peered through. The cold penetrated his threadbare clothing, and the holes in his cotton gloves did nothing about the 15 below wind chill. He couldn't even say that his brand new socks, the ones he'd pulled off a dead stranger, were preventing frostbite. But while his skin burned, it was his lungs that hurt the worst, and his bones. Never had he imagined that his bones could feel so brittle. The rest of him was numb to everything life had thrown his way, and for that he was glad. No movement inside. He jiggled the door. Locked. He kicked it with his slipper, and pain ricocheted through his leg. With gritted teeth, he tried to catch his stolen breath. He'd sworn off cursing after his wife had died with that look on her face. He shook the thought from his head. Numb. He wanted to stay numb. Breathing again, he verified his foot was still attached and spied the broken pane. He almost smiled. He struggled to get down on his knees, used the thinly padded elbow of his jacket to clear the rest of the glass from the frame, and then crawled through. Once inside, Joe squinted into the blackness. Without anything resembling hope, he reached out toward the wall and felt around for a light switch. Bingo! A soft, tinkling light bulb came to life in the back corner, highlighting a door. In front of him lay 2 aisles of washers and 1 aisle of those turbocharged heavy-duty dryers. He nodded. Maybe luck would show its face that night, and he'd find change for a freaking cup of coffee. He closed his eyes, and the aroma of the long dreamed of liquid filled his nostrils. His stomach growled. He sent up a prayer for a vending machine behind the door under the light. He shuffled that way, jamming his foot into a folding chair. His marrow cracked like a frost quake when he slammed to the ground. Closing his eyes, he prayed for the pain to stop. Moments passed. Something thumped. His eyes sprang open, his breath held. Above him, sticking out of the ceiling upside down, were 2 orange and yellow pinwheels. They reminded him of summer and his wife. Another thump, but this time it was accompanied by the clang of machinery coming to life. Joe still didn't breathe as his eyes swiveled around. From his place on the floor, he saw nothing but dust bunnies, dead leaves, and a dented can of Pepsi sitting on top of a washer. Thump. A memory crinkled to life. He could envision his wife by their clothes dryer, holding his ruined leather shoe up by the string. What? They were dirty, he'd said. Leather does not go into the laundry, she'd scolded. His heart lit up as he remembered how he'd taken her in his arms, hugging her close. She'd laughed and swatted at him. You're hopeless. He had been. A slight movement from the ceiling caught his attention. One of the pinwheels had moved. Must be a draft. Thump. Brr. The sound came from that same pinwheel as it swirled around faster than he could follow. It stopped suddenly. That's not wind, he thought. And then the other one moved. Brr, and stopped. Joe blinked. That can't happen. Thump. Vrr, pinwheel 1. Vrr, pinwheel 2. Thump. Vrr, vrr, thump. Vrr, vrr. The sounds picked up speed and became a rhythm. Another memory twinkled just out of reach. Thump. Vrr, vrr, thump. Vrr, vrr. Joe tapped his finger against the floor, timing the noises. That elusive thought. It was right there. Thump. Vrr, vrr, thump. Vrr, vrr. Ah, yes. Moon River by Andy Williams. The song floated through his mind. The memory and a smile blossomed, cracking the dried-out, wind-burned skin. He didn't feel it. The door in the corner flew open then, banging against the wall when the shoe thumped. Vrr, vrr. Joe had to look upside down to see the door. Nothing but darkness came from the opening. Thump! Vrr, vrr, thump! Vrr, vrr! And there she was, Lily, his sweet Lily, gliding in with a step, twirling with the next 2 in rhythm with the shoe and pinwheels. Thump! Vrr, vrr, thump! Vrr, vrr! Her arms were strong and horizontal to the floor as she glided toward him. She wasn't looking at him, but at her invisible partner. Thump! Vrr, vrr, thump! Vrr, vrr! She waltzed around him, never stopping the flow of motion. Joe struggled to his feet to see her better, stumbling once, twice. Thump! Vrr, vrr, thump! Vrr, vrr! Just as she floated by him, he reached out to catch her arm and join in, but his hand slipped through. Cold lightning through his bones. What the? Her gaze jerked towards his with that disproving look he missed. I didn't say it. She beamed at him, still dancing. He offered her his hand as she glided by, and without stopping, she flowed right into his embrace. He picked up the rhythm he'd never forgotten, staggering only once when he realized he still couldn't feel her skin against his. It didn't matter. He was gazing into her smiling face after all these years. Thump! Vrr, vrr, thump! Vrr, vrr. He spun her out, tried to bring her back, but she twirled away from him, heading back toward the door. No! She gave him that come-hither look he'd been dreaming about for decades, the one he'd never once turned down. He shuffled again, unable to keep the rhythm now that he wasn't not touching her. He'd never been able to dance a lick without her. He headed for that open door under the flickering bulb. Darkness may lay beyond the light, but his light was there, in the darkness.
All the feels in that one.
Yes! So creative.
Yep. We loved all the different interpretations on these two because it's just so cool to get the different feelings and vibes. And someone mentioned whimsy, and whimsy can have a lot of different things. Like this was more of that nostalgic whimsy, and then the first one was sort of that mystical, magical whimsy. So don't feel like you're out yet.
Mhm.
Just because there's different interpretations.
No, it's
All
very
right.
sweet.
So that one was Frostquake. The next one we have is Ghost Busting. And let me make it bigger on the screen. Here we go. Michael held Fiona's hands as she skateboarded along the sidewalk. She wore elbow pads, knee pads, a helmet, shin guards, and his wrist splints from his baseball injury last year. Still, her nails dug into his skin. He, unfazed, cooed positive comments as he held her gaze. Bella and Alex had other plans. Her in rollerblades, him in roller skates, and neither in protective gear, they skated circles around them, waltzing in the street. The world yanked sideways when they hit uneven pavement. They crashed, shrieking. Tapping at her gear, Fiona threw her arms in the air. Ha! She gasped as Alec hooked his arms under her armpits and dragged her back. One look at the building, Michael scrambled to his feet. Really? What? She's the baby. He hugged her, barking. You're a big boy. You can handle the ghosts. Ghosts? She gaped, taking in the old laundromat with a faded sign and plywood-covered windows. Rolling her eyes, Bella groaned. Ghosts aren't real. Are too. Fiona blurted, Want to prove her wrong? She crossed her arms. Yeah, prove me wrong. Tonight? They repeated, Alex with a squeak. The four preteens met outside the laundromat after 9. They were all staying at each other's places, and Fiona's father was working, so his detective mind would be engaged elsewhere. Armed with flashlights, they found the laundromat unlocked. Fiona analyzed the notched-out strike plate, but Michael pulled her in at the sound of a car. He held her tight, hiding behind the covered windows, and stared out the dirty glass door for the lights to pass. His exhale boomed in the room. Portholes of washers and dryers lined each wall, with 4 rusted tables in the middle. Alex placed his backpack on one, the bolts groaning at the strain. Okay, we have to do this right, he ordered, unzipping his bag. When he pulled out a camera, Bella grumbled, That won't work on ghosts. That's vampires. He listed the other things packed. Snacks, a phone with a thermal detector app, a UV flashlight, a ghost trap, a handheld vacuum, and a pinwheel, Michael laughed. He shook the 4th of July pinwheel in his face. A draft detector. Fiona clapped. Are we here to find ghosts or fight? Both, Michael murmured. They split into teams, with the girls taking the left side and the boys the right. The girls found dust, and more dust. A splash of water meant a puddle was somewhere. Alex's scream filled the room. The girls jumped and Michael laughed, wheezing out, Look, Despero joined us. Alex punched him. Not funny. Oh, you dropped your draft detector. He waved the pinwheel with a puppy pout. He snatched it back. I want a new partner. Buck up, Alex, Bella bashed. Shh, Fiona blurted. Did you hear that? Chains rattled and metal scratched. Alex pointed a shaking finger toward the back. The chain they forged in life. Dickens? Fiona asked. Muppets, he squeaked, as a thud against tiles sent a shiver through him. Fiona moved toward the sound first. Michael bolted after her, followed by Bella, then Alex. Greeted by 2 doors, Fiona reached for the knob on the left. Me first! Michael ran up to the one on the right. The worn sign said utility room, but only the T's and an I still had paint, making Alex chuckle. Full force, he tied the knob, walking into the door. His forehead and shoulder collided with the metal with a hollow thud. Stuck tight, he groaned, rubbing at his hurts. My turn, Fiona blurted, attacking the knob to the ice office door. When the door opened, a gasp escaped and the pinwheel motored. Alex stared at the blades. Latching onto Bella's arm, he pulled toward the door. You're right, there are no ghosts. She pulled back. Don't be a noodle. Michael rushed to Fiona's side as she entered. Alex got dragged in, swatting Bella with the pinwheel. The rattle of a bottle across the checkered tile greeted them. Then the stench, like the gym after class, sucker punched them. While a pile of deconstructed boxes laid in a corner like a bed, The rest, clothes, bottles, and trash, were tossed around the room. Dust and dirt covered everything. Gagging at the scene, Alex recovered first out of all of them. Between him and his brother, this room wasn't in the top 10 of disgusting. So when another breeze attacked the pinwheel, he dropped it and yanked the vacuum out of his half-zipped bag. He snapped the button on, snagging Bella's sweatshirt. "Hey!" She yanked away then shoved him. Another bottle rattled across the room, and further, thudding away from them. As Bella and Alex argued, Fiona duck-walked, scanning the floor for the bottle. It didn't make any sense. There was only one door and no windows, so where did the breeze come from? Where did the bottles go? Her sweeping flashlight hit something metallic. She reached her hand under a large coin-counting machine. She pulled out a chain. Michael leaned on the machine, and it moved. He kept moving it. An open gate led to stairs. They ventured down with the others following. A chill hit the air. Expecting a basement, Fiona swung her flashlight around. The room was long, too long. Her flashlight hit a sign, Wilshire Pedway. A light hit them. Alex cowered behind Bella, holding out the vacuum. "The ghost!" "Fiona Kennedy Ford." She stepped back. "Dad? Not a ghost?" Alex put down the vacuum. "No, not a ghost, just a criminal." Detective Ford lowered his flashlight out of their eyes. He held onto a man in dirty clothes and handcuffs. "What are you doing here?" No one answered. "Ghosts?" He stomped forward. "You're ghost hunting?" Silence. "Never mind," he spat. "You have until 5 to leave before I remember words like trespass, interfering with." The clatter of small feet aborted his countdown. "Sweet kids," the man slurred. "Shut up," he sneered, pushing him forward. Okay. The draft detector.
Another well done story. Good job.
Yes. Well done, well done. We've got 3 more to go, and then we are going to vote on the next one that's going to be our official winner. All right. So, The Shape of Her Pain is our next one here, Becca.
Okie dokie. A bell jangled as Kara stepped through the door into the laundromat. The ringing sound echoed strangely in the cavernous, shadowy space. She wrinkled her nose at the tang of detergent mixed with musty dampness. Kara scanned the room with practiced efficiency, but the machine stood silent and hulking, rust-flecked and dulled with grime. "Once a Marine, always a Marine," she muttered, then glanced at a scrap of paper in her hand. Why here? The note tucked beneath her windshield wiper led her here. The pinwheel will reveal what you need. Kara stuffed the note into her jacket pocket and took a hesitant step, the soles of her boots sticking to the grimy film that covered the tiles. The faint hum of traffic outside and, somewhere deeper in the building, a slow dripping created an eerie soundscape. This laundromat hadn't been used for many years, yet the place seemed alive, as if it held its breath, waiting. Kara walked between the machines, brushing her fingers over their tops. Dust clung to her skin. Each machine told a story of abandonment. Coins stuck in slots, clothes left behind and stiffened into ghostly shapes. However, there was no sign of a pinwheel. Reaching the back of the laundromat, she spotted a door. The peeling letters on the faded "Employees Only" sign clung stubbornly to the wood, their message nearly erased by time. She paused, her pulse racing, then pushed the door open. The light from outside revealed a small, cluttered room beyond with shelves stacked with unopened detergent boxes. In the center stood a steel table, and on it lay a pinwheel. Unlike a child's toy, this pinwheel was ornate, its thin metal blades etched with intricate patterns. Iridescent blues, greens, and golds shimmered as Kara stepped closer. The pinwheel turned slowly in the still air. She reached out, her trembling fingers brushing the edge, and flicked it. The blades spun faster, scattering light from the open door in dazzling arcs that made the room brighter and warmer, as if she had entered another world. The spinning slowed, and an unfamiliar voice shattered the silence. "It's been waiting for you." Her reflexes took over and Kara spun, settling into a defensive stance. Instead of an assailant, though, Kara saw an older woman. She stood in the doorway, her hands folded neatly in front of her. Silver hair framed her oval face, but there was sharp agelessness in her eyes. She wore a dark skirt and a coat that once might have been expensive, but Kara saw that wrinkles and frayed edges now told a different story. "Who are you?" Kara stepped back warily. The woman stepped in and then gestured toward the pinwheel. "Do you know what that is?" "No," Kara admitted, "but someone wanted me to find it." She smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "It's a key, a dangerous one." Dangerous? Kara glanced back at the pinwheel. It appeared harmless enough, but she felt a subtle, almost imperceptible hum that vibrated in her chest. "There are places better left unknown," the woman continued, "doors that should remain locked." "Why would someone want me to find it?" "They're hoping you'll use it." Kara opened her mouth, but the pinwheel began to spin again, faster this time. The hum grew louder, filling the room. The air around them rippled, and the small storage room dissolved into a swirling kaleidoscope of fractals. Kara stumbled backward, but felt the woman grab her arm. "You need to focus," she snapped. "It will drag you through if you let it." "Through where?" Kara whispered. "A door to everywhere and nowhere. Places that exist only on the edge of sanity." The colors brightened, and an unseen force pulled Kara toward the pinwheel. She planted her heels firmly, struggling as if against a riptide. The woman tightened her grip. "Waltz," she snapped. "Follow the pattern like a waltz." Kara stared at her in disbelief, but as the pull intensified, dragging her closer, she realized there was no time to argue. Kara focused on the spinning blades and traced their rhythm. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Kara's body moved instinctively, swaying in time. Then she was somewhere else, dancing. Kara knew immediately where she was and who she was with, the last Marine Corps ball she had attended. She and her partner were wearing their dress blue uniforms, and they danced. 1, 2, 3. The feeling of that night flowed through Kara. Happiness and contentedness washed over her in equal measure, and thoughts of the strange woman and laundromat started to fade from her thoughts. Part of her rebelled at this, but Kara wasn't listening. She only felt the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Wump, wump, wump. Helicopter blades. Images flashed in Kara's mind. A helicopter at an impossible angle, like a broken limb, bent unnaturally. A white stone cross with a name engraved on its surface, and a child's pinwheel planted in the grass. No, 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 she thought. To Kara's surprise, the colors dimmed, and then the woman let go of Kara, who took a shaky step back. The storage room was once more solid and mundane. The pinwheel rested on the table, spinning lazily. Kara's heart bounded in her chest. What the hell was that? "The shape of your pain," the woman said. "They knew you couldn't resist, but also wanted to see if you'd survive." "I didn't ask for this." Kara gestured at the pinwheel. "You'll have to decide someday whether to open the door or not," the woman said. "Just remember, some doors should remain closed." Kara turned her gaze back to the pinwheel, its slow rotation uninterrupted. Her hand lingered above it, the memory of music fading from her mind, before she closed her fingers. Empty. Whatever secrets the pinwheel held, she wasn't ready to confront them. Kara turned and walked out of the laundromat. The bell jingled as the door shut, leaving the pinwheel spinning in the silent, abandoned laundromat, waiting.
I got a lot of praise here.
Yes, very compelling. And I really enjoyed how creative, like where we took this prompt particularly. This was great.
Yeah, yeah. And the good thing about these challenges too is they push us out of our comfort zones and really help us grow, even if we don't go on with these stories to do anything else beyond treat them as an exercise to strengthen our writing. And this is one that I think really shows how all these different rules can be incorporated and it's something unique in a beautiful way. So we'll talk a little bit more about the other stories too as we go along. But that one was The Shape of Her Pain. We have 2 more finalists to read. The next one is The Spin Cycle. We got 2 different stories with this name. So The person, if you're watching it live, who wrote this, you'll know this was yours based on the content. But let's get into this one. The Spin Cycle laundromat sat abandoned along an empty stretch of highway. The roadside motel that had provided the majority of its clientele had burned to the ground many years ago. The laundromat had closed its doors not long after. No longer of much use to the weary traveler, the building still held a certain appeal for those interested in exploration, and David was an avid urban explorer. He stared up at the neon sign, long dark, and was struck by the eerie silence and the lingering odor of burnt wood that still wafted on the night air. He jimmied the door open, causing it to groan loudly as if in pain, and as he pushed his way inside. He was met with rows of washers and dryers sitting idle, some with their doors still hanging open like gaping maws awaiting their next load. The interior was dim, the appliances a dull gray, but after giving his eyes a moment to adjust, a flash of color caught his eye. He moved toward it and was surprised to find a pinwheel lying forgotten atop one of the folding tables. He picked it up, a gentle breath clearing it of dust and cobwebs and causing its multicolored blades to spin lazily. It was a promotional item, he realized. The yellow plastic handle was inscribed with faded black script. The Spin Cycle, Laundry and Dry Cleaning Service, 555-289-1153. David smiled to himself and tucked the pinwheel into his jacket. It was the perfect souvenir, indisputable proof of his night's adventures. Another trophy to add to his growing collection. The sandy crunch of spilled laundry detergent beneath his boots was the only sound as he continued to examine his surroundings. When he flicked the switch on the wall, he hadn't expected anything to happen, and so the electrical pop and the droning buzz that suddenly sounded from the overhead PA system startled him. The strange music that followed even more so. It was off-key, almost carnival-like, and reminded him of music of an old-time carousel might play. Odd that the place still had electricity, but no odder than the commercial-sized washing machine to his left that had suddenly sprung to life, its drums spinning faster than what should have been mechanically possible. David looked on in morbid fascination as the machine's door popped open and a forgotten load of clothes began to tumble out. They stank of rancid water and mildew, and he took an involuntary step back as they plopped wetly onto the warped linoleum floor. They didn't remain there for long. Fascination turned to fear as the articles of clothing began to twine themselves around one another like a den of writhing snakes. They slithered into and around each other, filling in and fleshing out a shape that slowly arose from the floor. The humanoid puppet, made of a patchwork of fabric with button eyes and a zipper mouth, looked at David curiously, its head cocked to one side as it began to sway to the music. David stared in horror and disbelief, rooted to where he stood as the sway became an awkward, shuffling box step, the creature waltzing closer to where he stood. David tried to back away. He desperately tried to scream, but it had already wrapped him in a clammy embrace, pulling him along as it danced its way back toward the spinning machine. David felt terror well up within him as he saw inside of it. The water had formed a liquid-like portal, beyond which he could see a vast landscape, a twilight world set into perpetual motion, where similar creatures formed of fabric and thread, tirelessly pirouetted and whirled across an ever-shifting horizon. "Have you come to dance?" the creature gurgled, its voice thick and wet. "Have you come to spin?" "No," David stammered breathlessly as he began to struggle against its iron grip. "I'm just an explorer." "Explorer?" The creature shook its misshapen head, pulling David roughly toward the washing machine. "No one comes here accidentally. This is the in-between, the spin cycle. Everyone must dance," it insisted, forcing him toward the swirling vortex. "Everyone must spin." "No!" David's fingers scrabbled frantically at the damp fabric as he realized the creature's intentions. This wasn't a laundromat, at least not anymore. This was a threshold to somewhere else. "It isn't about washing clothes," the creature spoke as if reading his mind. "It was never about washing clothes. It's about completing the cycle." Desperate to escape, David reached into his jacket. He hadn't thought to bring a weapon, but his fingers did close around the pinwheel's plastic handle. He did the only thing he could think to do at the moment. He raised it, wielding the dull plastic like the sharpest knife, and, with a shout, brought it down with all of his strength right into the creature's shiny button eye. It recoiled violently, its zippered mouth stretching wide, emitting a sound that David would later liken to the sound someone might make if their head was forcibly held underwater. Its grip loosened enough to allow David to wrench himself free. As he stumbled backwards, the creature began to crumble, the fabric of its body unraveling and folding in on itself. Then everything did begin to dance. Everything seemed to spin. The floor lurched as the drum of the washing machine seemed to expand exponentially even as the portal within began to collapse. Everything, the waltzing figures, the spinning machines, the discarded clothing, it was all sucked back into a whirlpool-like vortex of nothingness. David dived for the floor, squeezing through to the outside just as the laundromat seemed to pucker inward into a sucking, spiraling chasm, leaving nothing but an empty hole. As he stood there, his heart pounding in his chest and gasping for breath, he could have sworn he could still hear a faint melody, like that of a carousel carrying on the breeze.
So much description in this one. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, whimsical nightmare. Great, great, great. All around. All right, well, we got one more. Last but definitely not least, I'm going to let Becca take this one. Choosing a winner is going to be hard. Yes, that's why we said we were relieved that you guys are voting for the winner. Because if we had to choose for it, it would be super, super difficult. So the last one we have for today's finalist list is Through the Shattered Glass.
All right, here we go. Pairs of waltzing daisies already spun across the parking lot. Their tiny root feet searched for cracks in the cement where they would sink in their hair-like toes and grow. My foot crunched down on one, and its partner screamed while dark amber sap oozed beneath my boot. Good riddance. They broke the ground for the talking flowers, and I would not allow it, not while I still dreamed of a smiling rose sincerely thanking Devon for the nutrients while it drove its roots through my friend's eyes. I would have loved to crush them all, but I didn't want to be late. When a building from the human world slid into this hellhole, a portal could linger, but not for long. My ride home was Wendy's Washteria. It was a squat, weathered brown brick building crowned by a rusting metal sign that featured the name in big block letters and a 1940s-style pinup girl. She bent at the waist to wink as she blew on a pink pinwheel. Like most places that fell through, this place was in disrepair. The front door was chained closed, but one of the particle boards covering the windows easily pried loose with the miniature crowbar I kept in my pack, and I slipped in through the empty frame. Inside, there was a truly epic level of dust. What must have been washers and dryers were made into indistinct cubes by fuzzy gray blankets of dust. Under the grime, the walls were a dingy pink with vague outlines of murals that had been lost to time. Even the mouse poop in the corners was desiccated. There were some pinwheels on the counter, on a vase that labeled them as a buck each. I flicked one, and it was so gummed up it couldn't turn. Something crashed in the back of the building, and I froze. What was in there with me? I screeched in my best imitation of a carnivorous rabbit and thumped my hand against a dryer. Dust exploded into the air, and the metallic boom echoed through the building. A man cried out, a strangled, panicked sound. Crap. Some poor bastard got dragged into hell along with the laundromat. I vaulted the counter and poked my head through an archway. A man in a filthy, tattered hoodie and trousers, I prayed had stared out that color of brown, huddled against a closed door, his face hidden behind huge gnarled hands. A few feet away from him, in front of a busted open fire door, a fluffy little pink poof trembled next to a puddle of dust slurry made by whatever had been in the smashed bottle next to it. The poofs were harmless little scavengers that only ate long-dead carrion. Not that I had any idea how they did. As far as I could tell, they were just balls of fur. It was extra fluffy at the moment, just trying to scare off the non-existent killer bunny. Shoo! I waved a hand at it, and it shot into the mushroom forest that was even now starting to encroach. The poor man slowly lowered his hands, showing a scruffy gray beard that mostly covered a scarred, weather-beaten face. His eyes were swollen and red from either crying or some kind of substance. Most of us who slipped into this world had been there. We were the type of people who more easily disappeared. I gave him my best smile, but it probably wasn't very comforting. I'd been reduced to eating some tickleberries the other day, and besides the truly unpleasant squirming sensation they gave you as they slid down your throat, no matter how much you chewed, they turned your skin neon pink for 3 days. Am I seeing things again? The old man stammered and pointed out at the mushrooms that were starting to move like there was a strong wind, even though the air was still. Uh-oh. I really did not want to know what had decided to come looking for an easy lunch with the new arrival. No, but if we're lucky, we'll get out of here before you decide to believe me. Is that the bathroom behind you? I pointed to help him follow the conversation. Shock and a hangover were not good for higher cognitive functions. I, uh, yeah, probably. He was starting to shake. Great. Maybe if I hurried, I could get him back to our world before he panicked. As gently as I could, I tried to push him out of the way. Then I heard a roar that rivaled a jet taking off, and I gave up being gentle. I still had a little luck left. It was the bathroom, and it had an intact mirror. I touched the surface, and it was tacky but pliant. Open, but not for much longer. Something had caught our scent. It thundered towards us like a charging dinosaur. Hell, it might have been a dinosaur, but I didn't waste time looking. I used a lovely adrenaline surge to grab the old man and shove him headfirst into the mirror. He screamed, then his head went through the rubbery silver surface. The portal slurped him down like a struggling noodle, and the second his feet disappeared, I dived in after him. It was a little like going through a water slide filled with mucus, but it only lasted for a couple of seconds. I spilled out into a room that seemed exactly the same as the one I'd left, my new friend flailing on the floor. Fingers crossed, I looked out to the busted fire door. All that was through it was a small alley and the back of another building. The stink of garbage, the sweet evidence of humanity was already wafting through. For the first time in years, I cried. I was home.
And that is our sixth and final story.
Yes, I did also appreciate struggling noodle.
Yes, yes.
It's a turn of phrase.
I love this. Oh gosh, narrator, run. Yes,
All
yes.
right.
And now comes the time for decisions.
You ready for me to post the
Yes,
vote
we
link?
are going to vote now. We're going to post a link for you guys to go and click on your favorite. And while we're doing that, we'll go back over what the stories were and also share a couple thoughts we have about them, just in brief. Now, of course, if you were in those 6 finalists, you're going to get our judges' feedback emailed to you. So you're going to have more feedback than what we're going to touch on just today.
Catherine, it will not let me post the link.
Oh, okay. No
Maybe you
problem.
can
Let
post
me
the link.
grab it here. Because we do want people to be able to vote. Mm-hmm. All right, I've got it. We have to share our voting link. There. All right, that should be in the chat right here. I'm going to put it up on the page for our Twitter people. I know you can't see our chat to be able to click, but there it is. So again, going back over the stories, we'll start with the last one we just did. We had Through the Shattered Glass. This was the one about the person in hell trying to get back through the portal with the elderly gentleman. And this one had a really strong narrative voice. The description was just enough about hell, I think, to give us an immersive idea of what was going on in the scene and see it without getting lost in the potential details there. Becca, what do you think about that one? I think you're muted. I think I lost you.
Of course, I'm muted. Okay.
There you are.
Yes. I really thought that there was some really vivid imagery in this one that was really fun to kind of, you just didn't know what was going to happen next. So that was really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And I see in the comments, yes, you can absolutely still vote if you are just tuning in or catching.
We're going to announce the winner in a couple minutes, but we're going to give everybody time to think back over. Let's see. We had the spin cycle. The spin cycle is the one with the urban explorer, sort of that horror vibe, and the lost mildewing washing machine monster. There's your horror whimsy, Becca.
Yes. Well done.
Let's see. The shape of her pain, Becca. That's the one about the Marine who got a glimpse of her pain.
Very vivid, very creative use of the prompt too, and the use of the pinwheel and waltz for that one.
Mm-hmm. Ghost busting was sort of our YA representation for the piece, searching for ghosts and accidentally stumbling across the criminal. I sort of got Goonies vibes a little bit from it and enjoyed seeing different characters interacting together in that one.
Agreed.
Frostquake number 2 is the one about the man in the threadbare clothing who waltzed with his wife's ghost, rather. Sort of got that nostalgic whimsy. And then the first one was a mismatched love, and this was sort of our fantasy representation about the need for the socks to all be matched. Becca, have you ever done the mismatched socks?
Oh my goodness. Actually, my teenager prefers them mismatched. Actually, I will match them and then she will unmatch them and match because I guess that's a thing for some people. So yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to give everybody just one more minute to wrap that up. While we are doing that, we do want to let you guys know that we have another challenge starting this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Becca and I will be back. Becca, tell us about Cupid Gone Rogue, and it's another free challenge too. So
yep. Okay, so if you've seen me on any of our AutoCrit events, you know that I love a deconstructed or subverted or reverse trope. And this is an opportunity for you guys to practice flexing those fingers for the way you can deconstruct some of these tropes. So we're going to do a romance trope. You guys get to pick. You'll be able to subvert this and tell a story. We're going to let you have a little bit more words for this one. So it's going to be a 2,500. The challenge description and registration is in the chat. One thing that I'm so excited about this is that I love it when you have an opportunity to be weird and to be unpredictable. I like to use the example of there's a common romance trope of just one bed. I actually really like that trope. I think some people think it's super cheesy, but I really like it. But what is the opposite of that? What do we do if we subvert that? Personally, I love the option of too many beds because that is hilarious. You have all kinds of things. If you are struggling to think about what that would look like, we actually linked a blog post that we posted a little while ago about reverse tropes. And I am just so excited about this. This is going to be so much fun. So we have all kinds of ways to do this. You get a lot of creativity. It does have to be a complete story again, and we're doing the launch on Saturday. I really hope that you guys save the date and show for our kickoff because we have some fun stuff planned.
Yeah, and it'll be live again, so come back to the YouTube channel at 11 a.m. Saturday for that. We're going to actually close off our voting now, and I'm going to see if Becca can tally who won. One of the big things we wanted to push in this challenge beyond flexibility was the ability to start working on showing versus telling as is expected within our genre. There's a misconception that you should never tell at all. And in actuality, telling can be used to add drama, to increase tension, and to add immersion if it's used well. You don't want to summarize blatant emotions and summarize actions, and that's something that we were looking to really push you guys with on this challenge. So if you struggled with the showing versus telling element and figuring out how to get enough to meet your reader expectations, but also keep things rich and detailed and immersive, we are opening up a showing versus telling um, self-led class that you can grab here and you can watch whenever you would like. Here is that link for you guys. And that way you can sort of practice that showing versus telling element, have some guidance on how to incorporate those aspects into your work. Moderation is key, right? For sure. And we really are proud of everybody. It was tough to pick 6 out of all the submissions we received. So thank you for submitting, and don't be discouraged, even if you weren't in the finalist. All right, Becca, who is the winner of our Start Strong Challenge 2025?
I am so very pleased to announce that The Shape of Her Pain is the winner. So congratulations to the writer of The Shape of Her Pain.
Yes, yes, congratulations. We are super, super excited for you guys, for all of you guys, all the finalists. So let's see here. The Shape of Her Pain. I'm really excited just to see how all these stories came out. So for your prize as the number 1 winner, we are going to give you 1 year's access to our expert series bundle for 2025. And you will also get a story doctor session with one of our coaches or instructors added to your account on top of your finalist prize, which is that story sculptor and feedback that you're getting just for being a finalist. The expert series is 12 courses taught by industry experts on a variety of subjects from all across the board. We did one last month and it was Wild at Heart, and it was talking about writing about animals, right, Becca?
Yeah, we actually had an animal behaviorist come on and an animal trainer and was talking all about how you can incorporate better animal behavior into your writing. We have a fantastic one coming up here in February, which registration is open if you guys want to sign up. And we are going to dive into the world of writing sex and kink and talking about that. So that's going to be great. And then we have other things like low tech society. We have attorney. We have someone coming in for food and culture, comedy, medicine. We have really tried to find 12 distinctly different topics that will be interesting and helpful to you no matter across genres. I'm also very excited for our October panel because we're going to be talking about cryptids and paranormal things and phenomena. We have a panel discussion for that one. And then we also have things like mythology and folklore that get their own. So the expert pass is super cool. And you can either get the expert series individually if you just have 1 or 2 topics, or you can get the pass for the whole year. And so we'd like to give the pass for the whole year to our winner.
Yes. And we've actually got people on. So as I said, if you were in the finalists and you want people to know it was your story, post in the comments. I'm going to start pulling them up. We have S. Gray, who's congratulating Victoria. I'm responsible for the sentient socks. Well done, Victoria. I'm going to scroll up here because I think that I saw, yeah, we got S. Gray who wrote Through the Shattered Glass.
Wonderful work.
And we know that it can be nerve-wracking to submit your work to be read out loud in front of other people. So kudos to all of you. Oh, we have someone else on too. Hold on, I got to find your... There you go. Congratulations, Jonathan.
Very well done. So, yeah, we also, if you're part of our AutoCrit Pro community, then you have access to community, and we would love it if you would like to share your story in one of the community forums. We do have, if you'd like to test out AutoCrit, we do have the ability. Catherine, since it's not letting me post links, can you? It just says denied. I only have a little bit of power. I just, but we do have an opportunity. to join.
Yeah, so here is our offer we are doing for our monthly pro memberships, and it basically will give you your first month for 50% off the regular rate. So there is that link for you guys. We are going to open up a forum here shortly within the hour that will be for sharing Start Strong Challenge stories. So you can share your story there for other people to read and comment on in the community as well. I love this, Eric. The 5 runner-ups should be proud, and the rest of the folks who didn't make the finals, good on you for writing. Absolutely. We are so proud of everybody.
We did.
She
And we
needs
had a
more
lot
power. All right, everyone. Congratulations again. We really do hope that you will come back this Saturday and join us for our Subverting Tropes challenge. Thank you, Becca, for being on and helping us read. And we will see you guys on the weekend. Take care, all.
Have a good week.